I'm Andy Ramirez for the Liberty News Network. Today we have a very special double update for you. And it's a double update because of situations that have taken place in two cases that we here at LNN have been watching. These are the investigation of the murder case of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry, who was killed as part of the Operation Gunwalker or Fast and Furious botched up operation, which was done by the Department of Justice and the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency. And an interesting link in the sense of a similarity by judicial request and or court decision involving Border Patrol agent Jesus E. Chito Diaz Jr. Now, you may recall from earlier LNN reports that the Border Patrol agent, or BORTAC agent, elite unit of the Border Patrol, Brian Terry, was killed in the line of duty back on December 16, 2010. There were guns found at the scene, as well as an injured alien who was transported out prior to Agent Terry, who was died during transport. The alien, of course, was injured and was transported first, rather than the dying agent, which still baffles me, and a lot of others as well. But an interesting development has recently taken place, as reported by the Arizona Daily Star. The case documentation in the murder aspect or murder phase of the Terry case has disappeared. And it was reported by the Arizona Daily Star that the documents have been sealed. Now, this is very similar to the recent sealing around what we would gather to be the same time period, in the sense that it was unknown in the Terry case, unlike the Diaz case, where documentation was sealed after a story broke, as published by the WorldNet Daily and WND.com. What's most interesting is, if you think about it, it's the why. But first, a few details from that Arizona Daily Star article. So as the Arizona Daily Star reports in their article, "Case in Killing of Border Agent Apparently Sealed." And these were apparently sealed by federal court records, have been apparently sealed by a federal judge. In May, federal prosecutors won an indictment against Manuel Osorio Arianes and others, and they announced it with a press release. Only Osorio Arianes' name was visible in the indictment, but there were blacked out words where other defendants' names goes. And as you may recall from the earlier LNN report that I did, those names were included. Arianes was charged with second-degree murder and was not considered the likely shooter. He had been wounded during the gunfight that left Agent Terry dead. Now, asked about the case, and this is the Arizona Daily Star reporting this, Deborah Hartman, spokeswoman for the U.S. Attorney's Office in San Diego, which is prosecuting the case, said by email, "Yes, our office is handling the case and can't comment further." Now, this is very similar to what we have seen in the Border Patrol agent Diaz case. And let me go over some specifics there. Back on November 9, 2011, an order of protection was requested by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Texas. And it was granted on the same day by U.S. District Court Judge Alia Moses in Del Rio, Texas. This is the same judge who handled the trials and bond hearing as well as sentencing of Border Patrol agent Diaz. The ruling states as follows: ordered that defendant and defendant's attorneys shall not disclose any part of the discovery materials related to this cause number previously disclosed or disclosed later to defendant to anyone other than the defendant's attorneys or the court. And there's a purpose to this. When you look at why these documents are being sealed, known as discovery, The purpose behind it couldn't be more clear. You seal it sometimes because of ongoing investigations, sometimes for other things that are legitimate. But in this case, you got to wonder why you have the Justice Department trying to seal material from both cases. Now, these are questionable cases in the sense of how they happened in the first place. In other words, the government's investigation, what took place on the scene. A lot of questions have arisen in both matters. And of course, that is only underscored as far as you have Senator Cornyn, John Cornyn from Texas. You have Senator Grassley, Chuck Grassley from Iowa. You have Chairman Darrell Issa from the House side leading investigations to get to the bottom of Fast and Furious, Gun Runner, and every other name it's been known by. And yet you also have Congressman Duncan Hunter from California doing the same, leading an investigation and inquiry by House members, which is now up to over 40. 37 have signed a recent letter from Congressman Hunter to the Obama White House, and basically querying details there. But here's the situation. You have, again, questionable details. You have reports of 2 guns that we know of for sure. But you have speculation out there, or allegations that there was a 3rd gun on the scene that was taken into custody. And of course, this has yet to be verified, but that's one of the allegations that's out there. Very similar to the Diaz case in the sense that you had allegations made against him that he abused an illegal alien drug smuggler. Yet, in every instance of these allegations, there's testimony and statements that not only dispute it, but question it. For instance, even the drug smuggler, who we know by the initials MBE, and have since discovered that the B stands for Bernal. Well, we know that there is so much in dispute as to the government's investigation in both matters. But let's come back to why seal it. Because the government clearly in both matters has something to hide. Now, the motion to seal came after a document that was provided to WorldNet Daily disclosed that they found the drug smuggler Bernal to not be a very credible witness, and something that was later known. The U.S. Attorney's Office knew about it. ICE, who did this memo, the Office of Professional Responsibility, which is their internal affairs, they knew it because they wrote it. All of these outfits clearly knew there was something wrong there. And yet they go and have to seal this, just like the Terry case, because they don't want the facts and they don't want the truth getting out. Now, you have these judges granting these motions. In the Diaz case, outside of it being appealed and the possibility of his verdict being overturned and a new trial ordered, you have a dead case. So what is the purpose of this? Well, it's all about transparency, because they are clearly trying to hide something in the light of day. And you know, lately I've received quite a few questions from others out there in the media asking, why did the Law Enforcement Officers Advocates Council release the documentation? Couldn't the organization have been in violation of the court order? Well, no, the organization was not. And the reason for that was the organization had always intended to release the documents and materials. But the issue in pertaining to that was, for why it wasn't prior to that is, it was going to come out, piecemeal, or, with eventually the entire discovery being provided. Well, once that order was issued, and that order clearly was dated to November the 9th, other than advocating outside of the court of law, we've had, nothing to do with what's taken place in the court. We were, our source provided the documents well in advance of that order, and after consulting with counsels, the organization, we knew we were not in violation of that order. And we're comfortable following through what the original intention was, which was to release the documents. But we knew that this was about keeping things hidden from the public. And there's been allegations that have come out that, well, why did this happen and why did that happen? It's very similar to other cases. It's all about keeping things covered up. You know, allegations get made to people in Congress to throw them off of the scent. But the facts are facts. You read the testimony, you read the discovery, you know something's wrong. And that's something they're afraid of, them being the Justice Department and the administration are afraid of being discovered about. Otherwise, they wouldn't be hiding it. But there's also been an additional development that needs to be reported. It has been reported by other entities out there, which LNN has been able to get the sourcing on so we can verify it, that this Fast and Furious gun runner, gun walking, goes back to the Bush administration. Now, in one of these same articles, it's reported that other offices, not just the Phoenix or Tucson ATF office, was involved. And that has been verified. As the documentation showed, this master plan was first cooked up in 2005 and continued forward, really ramping up in 2007, and this was during the George W. Bush administration. Now there's statements out there that are saying they felt it was a bad thing, so they decided to kill it. I don't buy into it. Sorry. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I didn't see much that came out of the Bush administration or the Justice Department that would ever let me think that they saw that something was wrong and stopped. Because look at the prosecutions. Those certainly didn't stop. The prosecution against law enforcement. So you get back to this primary detail here. Was it possible? Yes. And all of the offices for ATF along the southwest border were involved. Everybody was informed about it. Everybody knew about it. Command knew about it at ATF. They knew about it at the Justice Department. They knew about it at Homeland Security. You know, they had to have known. How could they not when you have that many other entities knowing? And their counterparts in Mexico City also knew. So you're getting this outrage from President Calderon, the president of Mexico. It's a farce because it's very clear that the Bush administration and their officials were working hand in hand with their counterparts in Mexico City. Everybody knew what everybody was doing. But what hasn't been lost is the fact that we have 2 dead agents. And we hope that that is never lost on anybody. Can't bring them back. And these cases do need to continue to be investigated. An independent special prosecutor is required to get to the bottom of both of these matters, because when you take a look at it, you know, I get queried by people in Washington asking, well, can you link these prosecutions or the Diaz case with Fast and Furious or the Terry murder? Absolutely, because you have some of the same players, so to speak. You have the Justice Department, you have, I'm certain of this, Homeland Security. While it may not have been known at the time, they've certainly known about it since. Look at the cover-up. The cover-up had to come, who are the first responders? Before even the Bureau, other Border Patrol management and officials had to be out there. Something had to have happened. So if there was a third gun, if there was paper that was destroyed, it would have started there. Thank God for those whistleblowers who have come out since. The same people involved in this at the highest levels are the same people involved in the prosecution of Chito Diaz. Hopefully we will someday get to the bottom of this. You know, I thank those members of Congress who are getting involved in this, because you still have a family or two families who lost their sons. You also have another family whose son, husband, father is sitting in prison. For the Liberty News Network, I'm Andy Ramirez.